Ladies and gentlemen, great supporters of this unmatched news business, welcome to T-Rex News' first video recorded interview. Here in our temporary studio, I have esteemed and instantly recognizable guest here today, CanadlanLaw, the 34th governor of the state of Firestone, whose term will soon be nearing its end. He has had several accomplishments in his term, such as being the first governor to openly admit that he participates in the act of mewing. And he has also made one big error, which was never giving Business of the Month to T-Rex News. After delivering a rousing State of the State address just a few nights ago, he has come to the best-ranked news company in the state. Welcome, CanadlanLaw. Anything to say before we begin?
I'm just glad to have the opportunity to address the population and give them insight into the office of the governor. Thank you.
Alrighty, let's get this party started. So, first question. If you had to get rid of one department, which would it be?
You know, that's a tough question. I obviously love every department under my purview, but I think I'd get rid of the Department of Public Safety. I don't agree with its existence, but, you know, due to higher powers above me and beyond Congress and our self-governing government, Fed imposes that on us. But if it were my decision, the Department of Public Safety would not exist.
Alrighty, moving on. Is it true that there are tunnels underneath your manor?
No comment.
Okay. What is your fourth favorite color?
Purple.
Alrighty. What are your thoughts on the contents of the Revamped Control Firearms Act currently being considered in the Senate?
I'm a big supporter of the act. It was brought to me months ago. I think it's going to streamline the process. You know, we've had a persistent problem with inactive instructors, which to an extent is indicative of an inactive Department of Justice, which we've been working on. But I think this is really going to speed up and streamline the process and ensure that citizens' right to own a firearm is actively being supported by the government.
Alrighty, here's another question. Would you allow me to read off a list of all the state judges and the justices, and you give me your opinions on them? Alrighty. What do you think of Judge Aidan Julian?
Great. Oh, you want more?
Alrighty. What about Associate Justice City User?
Another great one.
What about Judge Sir Caleb XVI or Sir Caleb 16?
Love him. He's done really well to improve as a jurist in the state.
Alright, what about Associate Justice Wolf _RBLX?
You know, he's not that bad. I've had my personal differences with him, but compared to some other justices, he's definitely done better.
Alright. What about Associate Justice LONT? If I said that correctly.
I just think he doesn't really care too much about this group. He's a bit inactive. I think maybe all the years he's had in the position without any control kind of led him to go off the rails. But, you know, I believe that if he works on it, he could definitely improve.
What about Judge Confuzzled?
I mean, absolute joke person. I don't think they should be a judge. You know, Danny Boy Jurist, the person who recommended her, even said himself that he doesn't think she should be a judge and that she was just a political nominee to spite the former governor and lieutenant governor. She's immature, doesn't conduct herself well, but again, I'm a firm believer that anybody can improve and change their ways, so I hope that they do.
Alright, speaking of Danny Boy Jurist, what do you think of him?
Absolute joker. You know, said in my State of the State address, I don't want this animosity to persist, but I am of the genuine belief that the state of Firestone and the state of Firestone judicial branch would be in a better position if he was no longer there. He's been here too long. He has too much of an ego. You know, he's become reckless with his decisions. He tried impeaching me, failed, and ended up getting impeached himself. So, you know, just shouldn't be there.
Yeah, I see. Been there, saw it happen. Pretty crazy. Moving on. Does Firestone have any nuclear weapons?
Yes, the state of Firestone is in possession of nuclear weapons.
Alrighty, and what is your vision for the state?
My vision is a state where every single person can have fun. You know, I know I'm involved in the political drama, I'm involved in the Discord arguments, I'm involved in this and that. At the end of the day, my sole purpose is to be making sure my constituents have fun. That's all I want. This is Roblox, this is a game. None of us would be here. This is not a real commitment. This is not a real life job. This is not um, the real world. It's just Legos on a screen. So, I want an environment where we can all fool around and role play. This is a role play group. So we need to act realistic, but we also need to, not um, overestimate how important all of this is in the grand scheme of our lives.
Alrighty. And what are your thoughts on the bar exam? Is it too easy or too difficult? And how could we effectively get good attorneys to come to our state and prevent bad attorneys from being licensed?
Great question. I think the bar exam is easy if you put the effort into it. And that's led to a problem where people cheat. We see mediocre lawyers getting bar certified. We see lawyers who don't really know much about the law, holding certification, representing innocent people in court, and just clogging up the entire court system. I don't want to name any and cause any issues, but you asked another good question: is how do we get good attorneys to come to our state? And I've been advocating for this for years, which is transfer applications. If we take people from the old Mayflower and people from Ridgeway and people from Broadview and we give them certifications, they will improve our legal system. When you look at the state of Ridgeway, their legal system is conducted tenfold the quality of ours. People don't like to hear that. You just talked about Danny Boy Juris. Danny Boy Juris is one of those people, he is the vilification of our legal system and of our judiciary. So when someone tells them what he's been doing for years isn't working, it makes us look like a laughing stock, he doesn't like it. And so that's why we haven't had that much change. But if it were me making that decision, we'd accept transfer applications, we'd make our bar exam harder, we'd accept a little bit of, U.S. precedent as, not as having strict holding, but as influential in the vague areas of Firestone law. Because at the end of the day, our law was made by a bunch of kids online, but the United States' law and jurisprudence has been worked on for centuries.
Alrighty. Moving on. When will there be a new Deputy Attorney General?
I've been discussing that with the Department of Justice, and we have no plans. There's no suitable candidates in the Department of Justice. They're all either not suitable, they aren't impartial, they don't fit my view or the Attorney General's view for the state and the department, or they already hold a cabinet or sub-cabinet position, so they aren't eligible.
Alrighty. Are you a freethinker?
Yeah, I'd like to think so.
Alrighty. Moving on. How likely do you think it is that a member of Congress reads a piece of legislation that they are expected to vote on rather than just voting with the majority?
0%. I don't think there's a single member of Congress right now that reads legislation. I think they look at who wrote the legislation. I think they look at whether anyone else has talked, and I think they look at what other people are saying. It was an issue when I was Speaker of the House, but I dialed in on it. I kept the dogs controlled. But now that I'm not in the Speaker of the House, and now that we don't have critical legislators, Virginian State, Lee even, Ricky, when we don't have certain key people to the development of the group in Congress, everything goes bonkers. We're dealing with it right now. You know, the federal parks or the Firestone Park Service Act. It's been over a month since it was proposed and it hasn't been passed because Congress keeps on making mistakes. So, you know, the voters, I really think they need to dial in and look who they're voting for, look who they're supporting, because this clearly is not working.
Yeah, I've seen it time and time again. Moving on yet again. Did you shut down the mind control program?
To the best of my knowledge, that did not exist.
Okay. What happened to the SEC?
SEC, that was shut down by federal law when disgraced former SEC chairman Donksid, you know, kind of went out of place, you know, went on their own path. You know, I don't really think it should exist in the current state Firestone's in. Maybe in version 3, when we have a functional economy, it could work out.
Okay. According to a poll at the end of April by Speaker of the House Scribbles, you have an approval rating of 51%. What do you think of this?
You know, I don't really look too much at that poll. I was personally sent information from people in a few group chats that individuals in the community who weren't happy with me holding this Chief Court Justice and Confuzzled accountable, that they were telling them vote no on CanadlanLaw to get his approval down so they look better. You know, I just think it's really slimy. I think it's pretty crazy that despite the targeted attacks on my approval rating, I still have higher approval than many of the people on that list. You know, higher than some justices, higher than, you know, the president pro tempore Sharkfish, for example. So, and I had just come out of a controversy where I was clearly in the right. So, I think it's just interesting how I don't care that much about it, but others are willing to care that much that they're willing to alter the results. So, it isn't really worth looking at.
Understandable. Record keeping in Firestone has increasingly stopped being a cool and a trendy thing. Legislation passed a few weeks ago is still pending transfer to the Trello board containing all state legislation, and the legislation board itself is somewhat disorganized and has a few nullified laws in the wrong places or certain laws which are sorted into the wrong categories. Do you have any thoughts on this?
You know, I'll be the first to take accountability for something that I'm responsible for. I'm one of the few people who have access to actually organize that board, and I haven't. To be frank, I've been so caught up in all the little things, you know, the new department, the Firestone Park Service, you know, this drama with the courts. I've been dealing with the Firestone National Guard, an increased amount of crime, Congress not knowing what they're doing. So I've been put in a position where that's kind of on the back burner, but I hope that I'll be able to get to it soon. You know, there are other people who could handle it, but, you know, never expect someone to do something right. You got to do it yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Governor. On that note, we have reached the end of our interview. Thank you for watching this video and make sure to join our Discord server, linked in the description below for more T-Rex news productions.